Fiona Foster had spent 6 months liking every single one of his posts, and Connor Crawford had never once acknowledged her existence until the night he finally sent a direct message that changed everything. She stared at her phone screen, heart hammering against her ribs as she reread the words for the 10th time. It was past midnight, and she sat curled up on her couch in her small Manhattan apartment, the glow of her laptop illuminating stacks of fabric samples scattered across her coffee table. As a fashion designer trying to launch her own sustainable clothing line, sleep had become a luxury she could barely afford. But this message made her forget all about the exhaustion pulling at her bones. The notification had come through Instagram 20 minutes ago. Connor Crawford, CEO of Crawford Industries, one of the largest luxury hotel chains in North America, had sent her a DM. She knew who he was because her best friend Maya worked in hospitality marketing and never stopped talking about the young CEO who had transformed his family's struggling business into an empire. Fiona had started following him months ago after stumbling across an article about his company's commitment to sustainable practices. His posts about eco-friendly hotel operations had inspired some of her own design choices. She had liked his posts religiously, always the first 100 or so to engage with his content. Sometimes she left thoughtful comments about sustainability. He never responded, never liked back, never followed her. She had assumed he never even saw her interactions, lost in the flood of thousands of others. But now this message sat glowing on her screen. "Hi Fiona, I know this is random, but I have been noticing your comments on my posts for months. Your insights on sustainable practices are always thoughtful. I am actually trying to find someone, and I am hoping you might be able to help me. Do you know a woman named Felicity Ford? Your profile shows you went to Parsons School of Design, and I believe she did too, around the same time." Fiona's breath caught. Felicity Ford. She had not heard that name in almost 2 years. They had been roommates during their final year at Parsons, becoming close friends despite their different design focuses. Felicity specialized in interior design while Fiona concentrated on fashion. They had supported each other through brutal critiques, impossible deadlines, and the crushing pressure of trying to make it in New York's design world. Then Felicity had disappeared. Not literally, but she had withdrawn from everyone. She stopped answering calls, deleted most of her social media, and moved without telling anyone where she was going. Fiona had tried everything to reach her, worried sick, until finally receiving a brief email explaining that Felicity needed space to deal with some family issues and would reach out when she was ready. That had been 22 months ago. Fiona's fingers hovered over her keyboard. Why was Connor Crawford looking for Felicity? Her protective instincts flared immediately. She typed back carefully. "I do know her. We were close friends. Can I ask why you are trying to find her?" The response came within seconds, as if he had been waiting by his phone. "This is going to sound crazy, but I met her 2 years ago at a design conference in Chicago. We talked for hours. I have never connected with someone like that before. I had to leave suddenly for a family emergency, and in the chaos, I lost her contact information. I have been trying to find her ever since. Every lead has gone nowhere. Your profile picture shows you at what looks like a Parsons event, and I noticed Felicity had liked some of your older posts before she deleted her accounts. I am taking a shot in the dark here." Fiona read the message 3 times, her mind spinning. A design conference 2 years ago. That would have been right before Felicity vanished. Her friend had mentioned meeting someone in Chicago, had come back glowing with an energy Fiona had never seen in her before. Then everything had fallen apart with her family, and Felicity had shut down completely. She bit her lip, weighing her options. Felicity had asked for space, but 2 years was a long time. Maybe this was exactly what her friend needed. Or maybe Fiona was about to make a terrible mistake. I have not spoken to her in almost 2 years, she typed. She went through something difficult and cut contact with most people, but I do have an address where she might still be. Before I give you anything, I need to know more about you. I care about her, and I am not going to just hand over information to a stranger, CEO or not. This time the response took longer. When it came through, it was followed by another message. That is completely fair. Can we talk on the phone? This feels too important for text. Fiona hesitated for only a moment before typing her number. Her phone rang 30 seconds later. Hello. She tried to sound calmer than she felt. Hi, Fiona. Thank you for picking up. His voice was deeper than she had expected, warm and slightly rough around the edges, like he had not spoken to anyone in hours. I know this is weird. Believe me, I know how this looks. It looks like a CEO is tracking down a woman who clearly wanted to disappear, Fiona said bluntly. So yeah, you need to make this make sense. He laughed, a surprised sound. You do not pull punches. Not when it comes to my friends. Good. She is lucky to have you. He paused and she heard him take a breath. Okay, here's the full story. 2 years ago, I was at the National Design Conference in Chicago. Crawford Industries was looking to revamp our hotel interiors with more sustainable materials, so I went to scout potential designers. I sat in on this panel about biophilic design, and there was a woman in the audience who asked the most insightful question I had ever heard. It completely changed how I was thinking about our redesign project. Felicity, Fiona said softly. I did not know her name yet. But after the panel, I found her in the hotel bar. Introduced myself. We started talking, and I swear to you, Fiona, I have never experienced anything like it. We talked for 7 hours straight. About design, about sustainability, about family pressure and expectations. She told me about growing up in Seattle, about her complicated relationship with her father. I told her about taking over my father's company at 26 and feeling like I was constantly drowning. We just clicked. There was something raw in his voice that made Fiona's skepticism soften slightly. What happened? Around 2 in the morning, I got a call from my sister. My mom had been in a car accident. Bad one. I had to leave immediately to get back to New York. Felicity and I exchanged numbers, but I was so panicked that I put it in wrong. 1 digit off. I did not realize until I tried to text her from the airport. By the time I got back to Chicago 3 weeks later to try to find her, the conference had long ended. I hired people to search. I reached out to every design school, every firm. Nothing. It was like she had vanished. She kind of did, Fiona admitted. Right around that same time, her father got diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's. It destroyed her. He was her only parent, and their relationship was complicated but important. She left New York to take care of him in Portland, cut ties with almost everyone. Connor was quiet for a long moment. Portland, she is in Portland. I am not confirming anything yet, Fiona said quickly. I need to think about this. Can I ask you something first? In all those months of you commenting on my posts, did you ever notice the content changing? Fiona frowned. What do you mean? About 8 months ago, I started posting more about design integration in hospitality spaces. More questions about interior concepts. I was hoping maybe she would see them, that something would draw her back if she was out there watching. Something twisted in Fiona's chest. This man had been searching for her friend for 2 years. That level of dedication was either incredibly romantic or deeply concerning. She needed to figure out which. Give me 2 days, she said. I am going to reach out to Felicity. If she wants to hear from you, I will connect you. If she does not, you need to respect that. Deal, and Fiona, thank you, really. After they hung up, Fiona sat in the darkness of her apartment, phone clutched in her hand. She had not tried to contact Felicity in over a year, respecting her friend's need for space. But this felt different. This felt important. She opened her email and started typing. The next morning, Fiona woke to her phone ringing. She fumbled for it, squinting at the screen. Unknown number, Portland area code. Her heart jumped. Fiona. The voice was tentative, almost fragile. It is Felicity. Oh my God. Fiona sat up so fast she nearly dropped the phone. Felicity. Hi, I did not think you would call so quickly. I could not sleep after getting your email. Felicity's voice cracked slightly. Connor Crawford is really looking for me. He has been looking for you for 2 years. He sent me a DM last night asking if I knew how to find you. Felicity made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. I thought about him every single day. Every day, Fiona. After my dad got diagnosed, everything fell apart so fast. I had to move, had to become his caregiver. I lost Connor's number in the chaos of packing. I tried to find him online, but do you know how many Connor Crawfords there are? I did not know enough about him to narrow it down. Eventually, I gave up. Figured it was just one of those sliding door moments that was not meant to be. He knew enough to find me, Fiona said gently. That has to mean something. My dad died 4 months ago. Felicity's voice went quiet. I am only just now starting to put my life back together. I am not sure I am ready for this. You do not have to be ready. You just have to decide if you want the chance. Another long silence. Then, can you give him my number? Fiona smiled. Already planning on it. She texted Connor the moment they hung up, sending him Felicity's number with a simple message. She wants to hear from you. Do not make me regret this. His response was immediate. I will not. Thank you, Fiona, I owe you. Fiona spent the rest of the day trying to focus on work, but her mind kept drifting. She sketched designs without seeing them, her thoughts tangled up in romance and coincidence and the strange way life sometimes circled back on itself. Her phone rang again that evening. Connor's name flashed on the screen. Did you talk to her? Fiona answered without preamble. For 3 hours. His voice was full of something bright and wondering. God, Fiona, it was like no time had passed at all. We just picked up right where we left off. She told me about her dad, about Portland, about everything. I am flying out there this weekend. This weekend? That is in 2 days. I have waited 2 years. I am not waiting any longer than I have to. Something in Fiona's chest ached, a lonely sort of longing. That is really sweet, Connor. I am glad I could help. Actually, I was calling because I wanted to do something for you, as a thank you. You do not have to do that. I know, but I want to. I was looking at your website after we talked last night. Your sustainable fashion line is incredible. The problem is nobody knows about it yet. Fiona winced. That was the painful truth. She had talent and vision and no marketing budget or industry connections. Her savings were nearly gone, and she was 3 months away from having to give up and get a regular job. Crawford Industries is hosting a charity gala in 2 weeks, Connor continued. 500 guests, all the biggest names in New York business and society. I want you to dress some of our featured guests. Get your designs on people who matter. Full credit, full promotion. We will feature you in all our press materials. Fiona's breath stopped. Connor, that is too much. It is not enough. You gave me back something I thought I had lost forever. Let me do this. She closed her eyes, tears pricking behind her lids. Okay, yes, thank you. The next 2 weeks blurred into controlled chaos. Fiona worked 18-hour days, creating custom pieces for 6 different clients who would be wearing her designs to the Crawford Industries gala. Connor had connected her with his event coordinator, a terrifyingly efficient woman named Margaret who treated Fiona's designs with reverence and handled all the logistics. Connor texted her updates from Portland. He and Felicity were taking things slow, relearning each other, building something real. Fiona found herself smiling at her phone more than she wanted to admit, living vicariously through their second-chance romance. The night of the gala arrived with the sharp clarity of a dream. Fiona stood in the grand ballroom of the Crawford Hotel's flagship Manhattan location, watching New York's elite drift past in their designer clothes. 6 people wore her designs. 6 walking advertisements for everything she had been working toward. They look incredible. The voice came from behind her, deep and familiar even though she had only heard it twice. Fiona turned to find Connor Crawford standing there in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, looking every inch the powerful CEO. He was taller than she had imagined, with dark hair and startling blue eyes that held genuine warmth. Beside him stood Felicity, radiant in a deep green dress, her auburn hair swept up elegantly. She looked healthier than Fiona had seen her in years, her eyes bright with happiness. Fiona. Felicity moved forward and pulled her into a tight hug. I cannot believe I am really seeing you. You look amazing, Fiona whispered, hugging back fiercely. Both of you do. Thanks to you, Connor said, extending his hand. It is good to finally meet you in person. His handshake was firm, confident. Fiona felt a flutter of something she firmly ignored. He was with Felicity. This was their happy ending. I am just glad it worked out, she said, stepping back. Come on, Felicity linked her arm through Fiona's. You need to see the display Connor set up. They led her through the ballroom to a dedicated area where professional photographs of Fiona's designs were displayed on elegant stands. Her brand name, Foster Sustainable, was featured prominently. A stack of her business cards sat on a table beside a sign-up sheet for consultation appointments. The sheet was already half full. Connor spent the last week making sure every major fashion editor and buyer in New York knew about you, Felicity said proudly. He does not do anything halfway. Connor shrugged, looking almost embarrassed. You made this possible, I just opened some doors. The evening unfolded like something from a movie. Fiona found herself in conversation after conversation with people who actually understood and appreciated her work. A buyer from Nordstrom wanted to discuss a potential partnership. A fashion editor from Vogue took her card. A sustainable fashion blogger asked for an interview. By the time the crowd began to thin around 11, Fiona's head was spinning with possibilities. She stood at the edge of the ballroom, watching the last guests filter out, trying to process that her entire career might have just changed in one night. You did good, Fiona Foster. Connor appeared beside her again, Felicity on his other side. Really good. I do not know how to thank you, Fiona said honestly. This is beyond anything I could have imagined. You gave me the love of my life, Connor said simply, glancing at Felicity with such open affection that Fiona had to look away. There is no thank you big enough for that. Felicity rested her head on Connor's shoulder, then reached out to squeeze Fiona's hand. We want you in our lives, both of us. No more disappearing, no more distance. Deal. Fiona felt tears threaten again. Deal. Over the next month, everything changed. The exposure from the gala translated into real business. Fiona hired her first employee, then her second. She moved out of her cramped apartment into a small studio space that doubled as a workshop. Orders came in steadily, and more importantly, the right kind of attention followed. Connor and Felicity became fixtures in her life. They had dinner together every week, the 3 of them swapping stories and dreams over wine and takeout. Fiona watched her friend bloom back into the vibrant woman she remembered from Parsons, all the grief and exhaustion slowly lifting. Connor was good for her, steady and supportive without being overbearing. He made Felicity laugh in a way that lit up every room. Fiona was genuinely happy for them. She was. But sometimes, late at night in her new studio apartment, she felt the keen edge of loneliness. Her entire social life had become Connor and Felicity plus work. She had not dated anyone seriously in over a year, too consumed with keeping her business afloat. "You need to meet someone," Felicity said one evening in early December. They were at Connor's penthouse apartment, a stunning space overlooking Central Park that still made Fiona's jaw drop every time she visited. "I hate that you are always alone." "I am not alone. I have you too." "That is not the same," Connor said from the kitchen, where he was opening another bottle of wine. "You deserve your own happiness, not just vicarious joy from ours." "I am focusing on my career right now," Fiona protested. "I finally have momentum. I cannot get distracted." Felicity exchanged a look with Connor that Fiona could not quite read. What if the right person was not a distraction? Then they would be a unicorn, and we both know those do not exist. But the seed had been planted. Over the next few weeks, Fiona found herself noticing couples everywhere. The way they leaned into each other on the subway. The casual intimacy of shared glances across coffee shops. The simple comfort of having someone to come home to. She threw herself harder into work, trying to ignore the ache. Christmas approached with the frantic energy that always consumed New York in December. Fiona's orders tripled as people scrambled for unique holiday party outfits. She hired 2 more temporary seamstresses just to keep up with demand. 3 days before Christmas, Connor called her at 9 in the evening. "Are you at your studio?" "Where else would I be?" Fiona cradled her phone between her ear and shoulder, pinning a hem. "I am sending a car for you. Be downstairs in 20 minutes. "Connor, I have 6 orders that need to be finished by tomorrow." 20 minutes, Fiona. Trust me." She wanted to argue, but something in his tone stopped her. Sighing, she set down her pins and grabbed her coat. The car was waiting exactly 20 minutes later. A sleek black town car that felt absurdly fancy. The driver opened the door without a word, and Fiona slid into the heated leather interior, still confused. They drove to the Crawford Hotel's flagship location. Connor was waiting in the lobby, looking uncharacteristically nervous in jeans and a sweater. Fiona had never seen him in casual clothes before. It made him look younger, more approachable. "What is going on?" Fiona asked as he guided her toward the elevators. "I need your opinion on something." For Felicity. They rode up in silence to the 23rd floor. Connor led her down a hallway to a door marked Penthouse Suite. He unlocked it and gestured for her to enter. Fiona stepped inside and stopped breathing. The suite was enormous, all floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the glittering Manhattan skyline. But that was not what made her freeze. The space had been transformed into what could only be described as a proposal setup. Thousands of white candles covered every surface, their flames creating a warm, golden glow. Rose petals traced a path across the floor. Photographs hung on strings across the windows. Pictures of Connor and Felicity from the past few months, their love story documented in snapshots. "Connor," Fiona whispered, "this is beautiful. You think she will like it?" He moved to stand beside her, hands shoved in his pockets. "I am proposing tomorrow night, Christmas Eve. I wanted someone to see it first, make sure it was not too much." "Too much, Connor, it is perfect." "She's going to lose her mind." Fiona turned to him, grinning. "I cannot believe you are doing this. I cannot believe I waited this long. I lost her once. I am not risking it again." He looked at Fiona, his expression serious. "I owe you everything, you know that. None of this happens without you." "You two did the hard part. I just connected some dots." "You did more than that. You took a chance on a stranger. You trusted your instincts. You gave your friend back her happiness." He paused, then added quietly, "I want to do the same for you." Fiona frowned. "What does that mean?" Instead of answering, Connor walked to a door on the far side of the suite and opened it. "You can come out now." A man stepped through the doorway, and Fiona's entire world tilted sideways. He was around her age, maybe a year or two older, with warm brown eyes and sandy hair that looked like he had been running his hands through it. He wore a charcoal sweater and dark jeans, and carried himself with a quiet confidence that made Fiona's pulse skip. "Fiona Foster," Connor said, looking far too pleased with himself. "This is my best friend, Charles Canton. Charles, this is the woman I have been telling you about." Charles smiled, and Fiona felt it like a physical thing. "The matchmaker herself. I have heard a lot about you." "I am not a matchmaker," Fiona managed, thrown completely off balance. "I just helped out a friend." "You reunited soulmates," Charles said, moving closer. "Connor has not stopped talking about it for months, about how you took a chance on him. How you trusted your instincts about bringing people together." He glanced at Connor, then back to Fiona. "He thought maybe you could work your magic one more time." "I am going to kill you," Fiona said to Connor, but there was no heat in it. Her eyes kept drifting back to Charles. "Before you do, hear me out," Connor said. "Charles is an architect. He specializes in sustainable building design. He has been working on a project to convert old warehouses into eco-friendly mixed-use spaces. I thought you two should meet because you have similar values and approaches to your work." "You are setting me up," Fiona said flatly. "I am introducing you to someone I think you will like," Connor corrected. "What you do with that is entirely up to you." He moved toward the door. "I am going to go check on some things downstairs. Charles, you are welcome to stay and help Fiona give feedback on the proposal setup. You know Felicity almost as well as I do." Then he was gone, and Fiona was alone with a strange man in a room full of candles and roses meant for someone else's love story. "This is awkward," she said. Charles laughed, a warm, genuine sound. "Incredibly. Connor means well, but he has the subtlety of a freight train." He walked over to the windows, putting space between them. "For what it is worth, I told him this was a bad idea. You probably think I am some desperate guy who needs his friends to get him dates." "Are you?" Fiona asked, curious despite herself. "Not usually." But Connor was relentless. "Apparently you are incredible, and I am an idiot if I do not at least meet you." He turned to face her. "So here I am. Meeting you. No pressure, no expectations. Just two people in an absurdly romantic room that has nothing to do with either of us." Fiona felt herself relax slightly. "When you put it that way, it is kind of funny." "It is ridiculous." Charles gestured at the candles. "Though I have to admit, Connor outdid himself. This is going to make Felicity cry." "Happy tears," Fiona said, moving closer to examine the photographs. "She deserves this. They both do." "Connor said you are the reason they found each other again." "I just passed along a phone number. They did everything else." "That is not how he tells it." Charles stood beside her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something woodsy and clean. "He said you took a risk on a stranger because you believed in love, that you put your friend's happiness above your own caution." Fiona shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. "Felicity had been sad for so long. I wanted her to have a chance at happy." "What about your chance?" She looked at him then, really looked. His eyes were kind, with smile lines at the corners. His hands were scarred in the way of someone who worked with them, who built things. There was something solid about him, something real. "I have been busy," she said softly, "building a business, surviving." "Connor mentioned your fashion line, sustainable designs. That is impressive. You do not have to make small talk because Connor trapped us here." "I am not." Charles turned to face her fully. "I actually looked up your work after Connor told me about you. I really am an architect focused on sustainable design. Your approach to materials and ethics mirrors a lot of what I try to do in my projects. I was impressed before I ever knew what you looked like." Heat crept up Fiona's neck. "Oh. So maybe Connor is a meddling freight train, but maybe he is also right sometimes." Charles smiled. "Want to get out of here? Go somewhere that is not covered in someone else's proposal setup. I know a good coffee place that is open late." Fiona knew she should say no. She had work waiting. Orders to finish. A business to run. But something in Charles's honest gaze made her want to be reckless for once. "Okay," she heard herself say. "Coffee sounds good." They left the hotel and walked through the cold December night to a small cafe tucked between two buildings in Hell's Kitchen. It was warm and bright, filled with mismatched furniture and the rich smell of espresso. They ordered drinks and claimed a corner table, and somehow 3 hours disappeared. Charles told her about growing up in Boston, about studying architecture at MIT and getting disillusioned with the industry's wasteful practices, about starting his own firm 5 years ago with the goal of proving sustainable design could be beautiful and profitable. He talked about his sister who taught elementary school in Brooklyn, his parents who still lived in the house where he grew up, his obsession with old movie theaters and their ornate architecture. Fiona told him about Parsons, about the struggle of launching a business with no money or connections, about her parents in California who supported her dreams even when they did not fully understand them, about the loneliness of being so consumed by work that she forgot to have a life outside it. "I get that," Charles said, wrapping his hands around his second coffee. "I spent the last 5 years with my head down, grinding, telling myself I would focus on personal stuff once the business was stable, but there is always another project, another deadline. Stability keeps moving further away." "Exactly." Fiona leaned forward. "And then you look up one day and realize everyone else has built lives while you have been building a brand. Is that what happened? You looked up. Felicity and Connor happened. Watching them together, seeing how happy they are, it made me realize what I have been missing." She laughed softly. "That probably sounds pathetic. It sounds human." Charles reached across the table, his hand stopping just short of hers. "For what it is worth, I think Connor might be onto something. This has been the best conversation I have had in months." Fiona looked at his hand, so close to hers. She thought about caution, about protecting herself, about all the reasons getting involved with someone right now was a bad idea. Then she thought about Felicity and Connor, about sliding door moments and second chances. She closed the distance between their hands. Charles's fingers wrapped around hers, warm and solid. He smiled, and Fiona felt something tight in her chest finally loosen. They left the cafe after midnight, walking slowly despite the cold. Charles insisted on escorting her home, and Fiona did not protest. They stood outside her building, breath fogging in the December air. "Can I see you again?" Charles asked. "On purpose this time, not ambushed by Connor. I would like that. Tomorrow, I know it is Christmas Eve, but I am not doing anything until evening. We could go to the holiday market at Bryant Park." Fiona thought of her waiting orders, her deadlines. Then she thought of spending Christmas alone in her studio again, surrounded by fabric and pins instead of people and possibility. "Tomorrow sounds perfect." Charles kissed her cheek, gentle and brief, before walking away into the night. Fiona floated up to her apartment, her hand still tingling where he had held it. The next day, Connor texted her at noon. "Charles said you two talked until midnight. You are welcome." Fiona replied, "If this goes badly, I am blaming you. It will not go badly. Trust me." She met Charles at Bryant Park at 2. The holiday market was crowded with last-minute shoppers, the air filled with the smell of roasted nuts and hot chocolate. They wandered through the stalls, trying on ridiculous hats and sampling cookies, talking and laughing like they had known each other for years instead of hours. Charles bought her a handmade ornament, a delicate glass snowflake that caught the light. "For your first Christmas as a successful designer," he said. "Something to remember this year." Fiona clutched it carefully, touched beyond words. "Thank you." As evening approached, Charles walked her to the subway. "Connor is proposing to Felicity tonight," he said. "We should probably be on standby in case he needs anything." "He is going to be fine. She's going to say yes." "I know, but I am his best man. I should be available." Charles paused. "Want to be on standby together. We could grab dinner, keep our phones close." Fiona agreed without hesitation. They found a small Italian restaurant in the West Village and settled in for the wait. Halfway through their meal, both their phones buzzed simultaneously. Connor's message was a single photo. Felicity's hand, a stunning ring on her finger, tears streaming down her face in the background. The caption read, "She said yes." Fiona felt her own eyes water. Charles reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "You made that happen." "We both did. You helped him set it up." "I mean the whole thing. You brought them back together. That photo does not exist without you." They finished dinner and walked through the West Village, looking at Christmas lights and talking about everything and nothing. Charles told her about the warehouse conversion project he was starting in Brooklyn. Fiona described her vision for expanding her clothing line into home goods. They debated the merits of different sustainable materials, discovered they both loved old architecture and hated pretentious art galleries. At her door again, Charles hesitated. "I am going to Boston tomorrow to spend Christmas with my family, but I will be back on the 27th. Can I take you to dinner? Somewhere nice, proper date." "You do not think tonight was a proper date." "Tonight was perfect, but I want to do it right. Pick you up, make a reservation, the whole traditional thing." Fiona smiled. "I would love that." This time, when he kissed her cheek, he lingered a moment longer. Fiona felt it in her toes. Christmas Day she spent alone, but it did not feel lonely. She worked in her studio, finishing orders while texting back and forth with Charles. He sent her photos of his family's chaotic celebration. His nieces and nephews in matching pajamas, his mother's overcrowded dining table. She sent him pictures of her works in progress, her empty but peaceful studio, the snowflake ornament hanging in her window. Connor and Felicity called that evening, giddy with happiness. "We want to get married in the spring," Felicity said. "Small ceremony, just close friends and family. Will you be my maid of honor?" "Obviously," Fiona said, laughing through happy tears. "And Charles told Connor you two hit it off," Felicity continued, her voice full of mischief. "Do not think we are not taking credit for that. You are all insufferable. You love us." She did. Desperately, Charles came back on the 27th and picked her up at 7. He had made reservations at a French restaurant in Tribeca, intimate and elegant. He wore a suit that made Fiona's mouth go dry, and his eyes lit up when he saw her in one of her own designs, a midnight blue dress that had taken her 3 days to perfect. Over wine and perfectly cooked duck, they talked about their families, their dreams, their fears. Charles admitted he was terrified of failing, of his firm going under and proving all the conventional architects right. Fiona confessed that sometimes she still felt like she was playing dress-up, that any moment someone would realize she did not belong in this world. "You belong," Charles said firmly. "Your work is incredible. You are incredible. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you are loyal and brave and willing to take risks for the people you care about. I know you light up when you talk about design. I know you made my best friend happier than I have ever seen him, just by trusting your instincts." He reached across the table and took her hand. "I know I have not stopped thinking about you since we met." Fiona's breath caught. "Charles, too much too fast." No, she squeezed his hand. Not too much, just right. They left the restaurant and walked along the Hudson River, the city lights reflecting off the dark water. Charles put his arm around her shoulders and Fiona leaned into him, feeling safe and excited all at once. I want to be honest with you about something, Charles said. I am not good at casual. If we do this, if we really try, I am all in. I do not do halfway. Neither do I, Fiona said. Halfway is too scary. All in or nothing. All in then. He stopped walking and turned to face her. I am falling for you, Fiona Foster, fast and hard, and I know that is probably too honest, but there it is. Fiona looked up at him, this man she had known for less than a week but who already felt essential. I am falling too, she whispered. He kissed her then, properly this time. His hands cupped her face gently, and Fiona felt the world tilt and right itself all at once. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Charles rested his forehead against hers. Best Christmas present Connor ever gave me, he murmured. Fiona laughed. We are never going to hear the end of this, are we? Not a chance. The next few months unfolded like a dream Fiona never wanted to wake from. She and Charles became inseparable, stolen hours between their demanding careers stretching into long weekends and overnight stays. He brought her coffee at her studio during late-night work sessions. She met him at construction sites to see his projects taking shape. They navigated the complicated dance of two ambitious people trying to build something together without losing themselves. There were hard moments. Fiona had a panic attack when a major order fell through, convinced her business was doomed. Charles held her while she cried, then helped her strategize alternatives. Charles nearly lost a crucial project to a competing firm and shut down for 2 days, convinced he was a failure. Fiona refused to let him spiral, dragging him out of his apartment and making him remember why he started his firm in the first place. They learned each other's rhythms, each other's needs. Fiona discovered Charles was grumpy before his morning coffee, but sweet and playful after. Charles learned that Fiona needed space when she was designing, but craved closeness when she was stressed. They figured out how to fight fair, how to apologize, how to choose each other even when it was not easy. Connor and Felicity's wedding in April was a small, beautiful affair in a garden in Westchester. Fiona stood beside her best friend as she married the man who had searched for her for 2 years. Charles stood beside Connor, both of them in matching gray suits. During the ceremony, Charles caught Fiona's eye and mouthed, "I love you." She mouthed it back, tears streaming down her face. At the reception, Connor pulled Fiona aside. "Thank you," he said simply, "for all of it, for taking a chance on my crazy message, for trusting me with Felicity, for letting Charles into your life." "Thank you for being relentless," Fiona replied, "for finding her, for finding me. You found yourself," Connor said. "I just opened a door." Summer came with its bright heat and endless possibilities. Fiona's business expanded beyond her wildest dreams. She opened a small boutique in Soho, hired a full staff, started getting featured in major fashion magazines. Charles's firm landed a massive contract to redesign a historic building in downtown Manhattan, a project that would cement his reputation. Through it all, they built their relationship with the same care they brought to their work. Intentional, thoughtful, strong. On a hot August evening, Charles took Fiona to the rooftop of one of his converted warehouses in Brooklyn. The space was still under construction, exposed brick and raw concrete, but the view of the Manhattan skyline was breathtaking. "I wanted to show you something," he said, leading her to the center of the rooftop. "This building is going to be mixed use, residential, commercial, community spaces. And I have been thinking about the design, about what would make it special." "It is already special," Fiona said, looking around. "You saved a piece of history." I want to include a sustainable fashion studio, Charles continued. Ground floor, huge windows, perfect light. Space for design, for manufacturing, for retail. I want you to have it. Fiona stared at him. Charles, I cannot afford commercial space in Brooklyn right now. You are not buying it. It is yours, my gift to you. He moved closer, taking her hands. I have been thinking about the future. About what I want, what we want. And I realized something. I do not want to build anything that does not have you in it. Not buildings, not businesses, not a life. He dropped to one knee and Fiona's heart stopped. Fiona Foster, you brought love back into my best friend's life. You took a chance on a stranger in a hotel suite full of candles. You let me fall completely in love with you. He pulled out a small box, opening it to reveal a simple, stunning ring. Will you marry me? Fiona could not breathe, could not speak. She managed a nod, then a whispered, yes. Charles slipped the ring on her finger and stood, pulling her into a kiss that felt like coming home. Behind them, the Manhattan skyline glittered in the fading light, a city full of possibilities and second chances. They got married the following spring, almost exactly a year after Connor and Felicity's wedding. The ceremony was in the same garden, with Felicity as Fiona's maid of honor and Connor as Charles's best man. During the toast, Connor told the story of a desperate Instagram DM, a woman willing to take a chance, and two love stories that never would have happened without a little faith. To Fiona, Connor raised his glass, the woman who taught us all that sometimes the best thing you can do is trust your instincts and open the door. Fiona looked around at the people she loved. Felicity, radiant and 6 months pregnant with her first child. Connor, his arm around his wife, eyes full of contentment. Charles beside her, her husband now, her partner in everything. Her parents who had flown in from California, her growing staff from the boutique, the community they had built together. She thought about that night 8 months ago, staring at an Instagram message from a stranger. She could have ignored it, could have protected herself, protected Felicity, played it safe. Instead, she had taken a chance on love, on connection, on the possibility that sometimes the universe conspired to bring people together exactly when they needed each other most. Thank you, she whispered to Charles as they swayed together during their first dance. For what? For being someone worth taking a chance on, for Connor's terrible matchmaking, for all of it. Charles kissed her forehead. Connor's matchmaking was perfect, actually. We should probably name our first kid after him. Absolutely not, he laughed, and Fiona felt it vibrate through her chest. This was happiness. This was home. Not the grand gestures or the perfect moments, but the simple joy of being known and choosing to stay. 2 years later, Fiona stood in her studio, the beautiful ground floor space Charles had designed for her, watching her team put finishing touches on pieces for New York Fashion Week. Her sustainable fashion line had become one of the most respected in the industry. Her boutique had expanded to 3 locations. She had achieved every professional dream she had ever dared to have, but none of it compared to the moment she looked up and saw Charles walk through the door, their 1-year-old daughter Maya balanced on his hip. The little girl had Connor's blue eyes and Fiona's dark hair, and she squealed with delight when she saw her mother. "We brought you lunch," Charles said, kissing Fiona quickly. "And Maya refused to nap until she saw you." Fiona took her daughter, breathing in the sweet baby smell. "Thank you. I have been drowning in last-minute adjustments. I know. That is why we came." Charles set down a bag from their favorite deli. "Also, Connor and Felicity want us over for dinner tomorrow. Apparently their son has learned a new word and they want witnesses." Fiona laughed. Connor and Felicity's 2-year-old son was a terror and a delight in equal measure. "Tell them we will be there." Later that evening, after Maya was asleep in her crib and the apartment was quiet, Fiona and Charles sat on their couch, her feet in his lap while he rubbed them absently. She thought about the path that had led her here. A random Instagram DM, a leap of faith, a willingness to believe in love even when it seemed impossible. "You ever think about how close we came to never meeting?" she asked Charles. He looked at her, that same steady gaze that had captured her in a candlelit hotel suite. "Every day, and every day I am grateful Connor is a meddling freight train." "Me too," Fiona smiled. "We should probably send him a thank you card. He would frame it and put it in his office." "Probably." They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that only came from years of choosing each other over and over. Outside their window, New York hummed with its endless energy, a city full of people searching for connection, for love, for their own sliding door moments. Fiona Foster had found hers through an Instagram DM she almost ignored. She had trusted a stranger, reconnected soulmates, and stumbled into her own love story in the process. She had learned that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was take a chance, open the door, and see what waited on the other side. And what waited was everything.